So I got to know this young man, and one day I walked in, he said, "You're a preacher, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You've been staying at this hotel for a couple of weeks." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just want you to know," and he was a little, not defiant, but almost in your face, and he said, "I'm an atheist." And I looked up at him and said, "You know, I'd be an atheist too, but I just don't have enough faith. You have more faith than I do. So since I have to go by logic and I don't have enough faith, I can't be an atheist," and I walked away. He called to me, Shawn, across the hotel lobby. He said, hey, preacher, come back here. What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you know, I admire people that have faith like you, and I admire people who can make that quantum leap." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did you take biology? It says life begets life, and you believe that non-living things produce living things." I said, "Secondly, the second law of biology, at least when I took biology at university, it said like produces like. Life produces life, like produces like." And I said, "What you're saying is non-living things produce living things, and things that are not alike, things that are alike don't produce things that are not alike, and you will call that an aberration, a mutation, but it's not basic science." And we talked about that. We talked about how mutations normally are destructive.
Yes.
And this young man said, "You know, I need to look at this again."
You know, really scientifically, Mark, there has never been a time when somebody mutated in recorded history and developed some new part of their body that was advantageous. It just has never happened. But here's another question that has to do with the existence of God. If a society dismisses the existence of God, as many modern societies have, at least in the 20th century, what happens to morality? What happens to right and wrong if God doesn't exist?
You know, Shawn, I've had a chance to observe that firsthand. From about 1987 through till today, I've been traveling to the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. The interesting thing I observed is this. Under communism, the average Russian woman had 6 abortions by the time she was 40. Six.
That's unbelievable.
Alcoholism is off the charts. Suicide is dramatically high. Now, here's the issue. I remember right after the fall of communism, I was invited to come out to a city of Pushna, and that city is not far from Moscow. It's about 50 miles from Moscow. It was a city of biological scientists. 30,000 biological scientists lived there. It was a closed city to any foreign observers. After the fall of communism, that city opened up, and I went and spoke one night, lectured to 1,000 biological scientists in the city. They chose the topics. The first was, does God exist? The second one, is the Bible true? And the third is, who is Jesus? Now, at the end of the 3 nights, the way the format was, or the programs were, I would speak for 45 minutes, and they would write out questions and answer them. I wasn't concerned about the lectures, but I was really concerned about the questions, because I knew I was facing some of the top brains of the world.
Right, and you can plan a lecture, but you can't plan a question.
And I thought, this is going to be tough. After the fall of communism, when I was there, Shawn, in 3 nights, I didn't get one question on science. Not one. Not one question on atheism. I got questions like this. How do you pray? If God is so good, why is the world so bad? How can you have a better marriage? How do you forgive people that hurt you? So at the end of 3 nights, I knew this audience by now. I had been speaking to them, answering their questions, meeting with little groups of scientists. So at the end of the 3rd night, I said to them, "You folk have really surprised me. I'm standing in the midst of some of the brightest minds in the world, and you don't ask me one question about science. You don't ask me one question about atheism. Why not?" And one of the scientists said something, Shawn, that I've never forgotten all my life. He said, "This is why. We